Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 10 of SHEMAKERS, where we have conversations to help women develop their playbooks to win in business and life. I am your hostess and the founder and CEO of Hills and Helmets, Shavonna Williams. I've worked in sports marketing, communications for organizations in business, politics, government, and 5 major sports leagues. So, of course, I've had my moments where I was the only woman in the boardroom. I'm working to change that. My goal is to get more women in the boardroom, sitting at the table, making decisions with equal pay. Throughout my career, I've been really fortunate to meet and work with some amazing and incredible women who are not only talented and killing the game, but share my mission to help you succeed. These women, SHEMAKERS, join us on Wednesday evenings to help you develop your winning playbook. What is a SHEMAKER? A SHEMAKER is a person who is talented, skilled, and successful and helps women succeed. You are a SHEMAKER, and I am here to help you unleash your power and win. Let's meet tonight's SHEMAKER coach. Ellen Hill-Zeringue is the Vice President of Marketing for the Detroit Tigers. She is entering her 8th full season in her current role and 17th overall season with the organization. She oversees all functions of the club's marketing and promotions departments, including print and broadcast advertising, Tigers.com, multicultural marketing, promotional giveaways, and social media. She also manages the club's branding strategy and was responsible for the launch of the successful Who's Your Tiger campaign, which serves as the club's marketing slogan from 2005 through 2008 and returned in 2011. Prior to joining the Tigers, she served as the Director of Marketing for WMXD, Mix 92.3 FM, where she was responsible for the station's marketing, imaging, and advertising strategies. She also managed special events and consumer relation marketing during her 7 years at WMXD. She served in a variety of roles during her time at Vaughn Marketing Consultants in Detroit, Michigan. As a senior account executive, she was responsible for overseeing special event execution, public relations strategies, budget management, branding, and advertising for select account and clients. She is a graduate of the Detroit Chamber of Commerce, Leadership, Detroit class, and a member of the Links Greater Wayne County chapter, and is a board member of Inside Out Literary Project. She is also from Spelman College, where she received a degree in public relations. You all, I am really excited to welcome Ellen Hill-Zeringue to SHEMAKERS tonight. It is Detroit Tigers opening day eve. Tomorrow they start their season at home. So I am really happy to have Ellen join us here on the eve of her big season and to close out Women's History Month. I think we really got a home run having Ellen here with us this evening. What you'll learn about Ellen tonight is that she is not only savvy and talented and knows branding inside and out, she is a lady who is compassionate about developing others. I got to know Ellen working across the street from her at the Detroit Lions, and she was not a competitor at all. She embraced me like a sister, welcomed me to Detroit, and helped me get grounded in a new market. So you all, welcome Miss Ellen Hill-Zeringue.
Hi, Shavonna. Thank you for that very, very, very wonderful and kind introduction. This is 100% my fault because I must have sent you an old bio. Because tomorrow will be my 21st season with the Detroit Tigers. And at Spelman, I got a degree in English. And I'm very proud of that degree. So yes, so there's a huge distinction between PR, and I don't even know you can get a PR degree at Spelman. Probably now you can. But I graduated with a degree in English. So that is our first lesson for the evening. Make sure you send someone your updated bio.
It is okay. What's really funny, Ellen, is that as I was reading that, I said, I guess I was wrong. You know, I've been saying she's been at the Tigers for 2 decades, but I was right.
You're right.
Well, very good to see you. Are you excited? Kicking off the 21st season in 2021. How about that?
Yeah. I'm very, very excited. It's been, last year we couldn't have fans in the ballpark. So this year, we're having a limited capacity, 8,000 fans, which is approximately 20% of our general capacity. But it's been a lot of work. We're doing everything we can to ensure that those 8,000 plus fans that come to the ballpark tomorrow are safe, that they understand all the health and safety protocols. They understand all of our policies and processes that we've put in place, because we really want to make sure that this is a huge success. Because as we do well for these first couple of games, there may be opportunities for us to increase our attendance. And I really, really, really want to make sure that Detroiters have an opportunity to spend the summer at Comerica Park outdoors enjoying great baseball.
That's really exciting. I know it feels good to be back. So how have you approached this season, understanding that we're coming out of a pandemic and just the excitement around opening day in general? How are you all still infusing that excitement, understanding the limitations?
Well, it's interesting. Somebody asked me that question earlier today. And the main excitement, I think, the main thing that we're trying to focus on right now is really the health and safety protocols, right? And we want the game and the experience for fans coming into a venue after not having been able to come to that venue for 1 year. We want that to be an amazing experience. So, we'll have music and things like that. But, we're going to wait and pause a little bit to make sure that our processes are perfect and that we understand how fans are coming into the ballpark and sort of experiencing the ballpark. And then later in the summer, we will start to launch some of our normal traditional promotional nights and events. For example, our annual Negro Leagues weekend celebration, our Fiesta Tigre celebration, our Pink Out the Park, which is where we recognize breast cancer survivors, and we encourage people. It's a fundraising opportunity to fund breast cancer research. So those kinds of events we'll do later in the season. But right now we want to get an A+ on, and I'm pretty sure we will, is making sure that fans understand what they need to do to be prepared to come to the ballpark, and that all of our systems are in place to ensure that the ballpark is safe and clean, and we can respond to fans' needs and questions.
Being a veteran in the game, I've noted that you continue to knock it out of the park with your campaigns. How do you approach your work?
So when it comes to the marketing campaigns and slogans, it's a group effort. For example, the Who's Your Tiger campaign that you mentioned, it was from several years ago, back when we were, one of the first place teams. That was the brainchild of our advertising agency at the time, SMZ Advertising. So they came up with the concept, but it was my department and my group that was responsible for making sure that it was integrated into every aspect of the fan experience. So whether that is in park, on the scoreboard, or if it's outside in the television advertising and the radio advertising and the street pole banners around the ballpark, right? You want to make sure that it is a very integrated campaign. Currently, we've just recently launched, and it was last year. We didn't get to launch it the way that we wanted to. We've launched a new campaign. It's called Detroit Roots, and it's fantastic. I'm super excited about it. And Detroit Roots means so many things, right? It means that the Detroit Tigers, being a over 120-year-old franchise, the Detroit Tigers are firmly rooted in the community. The Old English D is an iconic symbol that means doesn't mean just the Detroit Tigers. It has grown to become something that represents the city of Detroit and this region. And so the Tigers are firmly rooted in the community. But Detroit Roots, and we really saw this last year during the pandemic, also means that Detroiters are rooting for one another. They're rooting for the frontline workers. They're rooting for the children who had to stay home from school and the parents who had to help them. They were really rooting for each other. There was a true spirit of community. And so over the past year, we've been able to build on those themes of rooting for one another, rooting for the Tigers players rooting for the fans, and the Tigers players were able to root for the fans through different social platforms. They were sending out messages on their personal social media platforms, but also using our social media platforms to really connect with fans in a meaningful way. And something that we did this past weekend, which I'm totally excited about, we did the Detroit Roots opening day neighborhood tour. And we went out into 2 neighborhoods in the city of Detroit, and we just completely took over, right? We had lawn signs, we had Detroit Roots flags, we had a picnic in the park, socially distanced and safe. We were able to give away Little Caesars pizza. We were able to give away youth baseball equipment, because the other thing that we're trying to do as we think about Detroit roots and rooting baseball in the community is growing the game. So this weekend we were out in the neighborhoods. We were giving young people bat and ball sets and signing them up for a virtual registration program. We had a drum line. We had our promotions team walking through the neighborhoods. And really, it's been such a tough year, particularly for Detroiters, that we wanted to take this opportunity as we kick off opening day and opening weekend to really say thank you to Detroiters, and perhaps give people who've had a tough year a few minutes of joy where they could dance in the middle of a park to a great DJ, get a Detroit Roots t-shirt, get some Little Caesars pizza, and some prizes and goodies for their children as well.
That is awesome. I'm excited about the Roots campaign. It's thoughtful and very timely and relevant. So congratulations again on a campaign that you are knocking out of the park.
Thank you.
Ellen, there's a lot of interest in sports marketing, and you didn't start your career in sports. Can you share with us just some advice that you would give to college students who are interested in a career in sports?
So the first thing I would say is that, it's changed, right? Over the 20 plus years that I've been in sports, it's changed. 20 years ago, you didn't necessarily have to have the specialization, right? So now there's all these different degrees and things that you can get, specializing in various aspects of sports. And so I would encourage someone who wants to go into sports to, particularly if they want to go into marketing, I would encourage them to, learn about the industry that they want to go into, right? And what are the unique aspects of that particular industry? So whether it is basketball or football or baseball, really understand and learn the game. I would also say, if you want to go into marketing, one of the things I always tell people is that if you can market underwater basket weaving or cell phones or picture frames, you can also market basketball, football, and what have you in sports. Marketing is one of those fields where it's really about understanding consumer behavior, right? And if you understand consumer behavior and you think about how you can think like the consumer, right? So I frequently tell the young people in my office, for example, what would this particular fan think about this particular program? How would the single mom with two young boys, would she be able to afford to come to our fan fest? What is she going to think about this particular campaign? So again, it's about thinking about consumer behavior. So if you understand consumer behavior and you also understand the various tools and resources that you need to be able to connect with a consumer, for example, all the different social media platforms, all the digital that's out now, if you can understand that in any field, you can master it in sports as well. I have a degree in English. I think that anybody who wants to go into marketing needs to know how to write well and know how to communicate well. So even if you're studying something different, you really need to know how to write well. And you need to learn how to write for various mediums. Now it's, can you write for the wonderful short messages that you need to include in your social media messaging? When I was coming up, it was, can you write a really good radio spot, right? Like I can write radio spots with my eyes closed, but it's something you have to master. So it's really understanding the consumer, understanding how to connect with the consumer, and understanding what tools and resources you need to reach some or one or many different of the fan bases and demographics that you're going to go after.
That is excellent. And I was speaking to some students at the University of Michigan yesterday and said the exact same thing. Even if you're not interested in marketing, the number one skill you need is communication. Being able to effectively communicate on different channels, like you said, is so important, even just to get your ideas across.
Yeah. And the other thing that I would add, because I don't think I really answered your question, the other thing I would add about somebody who wants to go into sports is remember that there are 30 Major League Baseball clubs, right? So there's 29 other Ellens. And so sometimes if you really want to get into sports, particularly if it's the beginning of your career, you may not land a job and in the NBA or, for a Major League Baseball team. You may have to think differently and think about the corporations and companies that support sports, right? So Is it a radio station? Is it a brand that has a sports division? And so you also have to remember that working in sports is not easy. It looks easy, but it's not. And particularly if you want to go into Major League Baseball, that's 162 games, right? So now 81 of them are on the road, but you still have to be engaged with the product. So if you want to work in sports, you've got to be hungry, you've got to be ambitious, and you've got to want to work really, really long hours. I always tell the story that during the summer, when the Tigers are home, I'm always backing out of my driveway, waving at my neighbors who are having barbecues and street parties. And I'm like, yep, on my way to the office again. But it's a decision that I've made. And once I get to the office, I'm like, oh, I love my job. But, it's a decision. 4th of July, Memorial Day, Easter, all of those holidays, I'm at the ballpark while my friends are having parties. So you have to think about the lifestyle that you want. I also work very, very, very long hours. So for a game day, if it's a night game, I'll get to the office at like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I won't leave until the last out or maybe the 8th inning. But still, if it's a night game, it starts at 7, that could be 10 or 11. And then I'm turning around and I'm doing it again for the next day. So you have to love what you do and you have to love the people that you work with, because you're probably going to be with the people that you work with more than you're going to be with your family when you're in season.
And that's just game day.
That's just game day, right?
I know as a marketing leader in sports, specifically for a team, your challenge is not just game day. Can you talk to us about how you approach what a lot of people refer to as the off season? And those of us in sports know that there is no off season. That's when we're still planning, developing, but also we want to remain engaged. What is your strategy for Marketing 365?
Absolutely. Well, I will say that you're exactly right. One of the questions that always makes me laugh is when people say to me, so what do you do in the off season? Do you still work? And I'm like, yeah, actually, that's probably the most intense part of the year, right? Is when we are putting together our strategy and planning what it is we're going to do for the next season. But also, to your point, Shavana, what are we going to do in the off season to keep fans engaged? Unlike other markets, we don't have any Detroit Tigers baseball players that live in the city of Detroit year round. They're here during the season, but once the season ends, they're heading off usually to warmer climate. So that creates another challenge for us, because when we want to do programming, particularly community programming or special events in the off season, we typically have to be very innovative because we don't have that carrot, the player, here in the market. So it's really about thinking about what can we do from a community perspective in terms of going out with our mascot and in this particular off season, really leveraging the computer, really leveraging Zoom and all the different ways that you can bring people together across the country. But the off season is primarily for us thinking about strategy for what we're going to do the next year. And I will say that, so the baseball season ends in end of September, October. And, usually there's a little bit of a break. But then come November, we're thinking about what's our holiday programming going to be? What is that going to be, not just in the city of Detroit? What is it going to be through our social platforms? How are we connecting with people? How are we getting people excited? And then, bam, tickets go on sale, right? And then it's January. And then January, we typically have our Winter Fest, or our Tigers Fest, we call it, where we're bringing players in, and we have a big, huge event, 3 days worth of events. And then it's February, it's spring training. So then we're thinking about how are we taking the stories from Lakeland down in spring training and using and amplifying them through our social media platforms, at the same time trying to get our single game tickets and individual tickets on sale, at the same time thinking about what our promotions and special event strategy is going to be. So it really is a 365 a day job. And I will also say that with, social media, now you're on all the time, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right? Because people are always looking at their phones. They're always looking for content. So content is king now. So we have to do our best to be able to come up with what are the ways that we can engage with our fans through social media. And now you've got to be like 10 steps ahead of your competitor. You got to be creative. You got to be willing to take risks. You got to be willing to say, oops, that didn't work, or sweet, that worked. but you've got to be on. And so we've got a great social media team that is innovative, is creative. They collaborate a lot with our creative services department to make sure that we're pushing out content that is not just interesting, but also visually appealing, right? Everybody's into this visually appealing. Is everything, does it look right? Does it look good? So, with the onset of social media, it feels like it's become twice as much of a 365 a day year position.
Definitely. Along those lines, Ellen, I want to just talk about reinventing yourself again because of the success that you have had and the staying power. How do you reinvent yourself and stay relevant?
Wow, that's a great question. I think the first thing that we all have to do is to be true to ourselves, right? And we have to, I think we're guided by listening to ourselves and listening to our spirit, right? So, and also just some fundamental things that make it easy to have staying power in a career. And that is integrity, working hard, and caring about people. I was so touched by what you said when you opened and you talked about how you and I connected when you were working at the Lions, and how we connected just sort of as like sister friends. And I wanted to make sure that you succeeded. And it's those kinds of relationships. It's that kind of making sure that we all rise together. And that's really important, I think, for women, is to make sure that when Shavana does well, then Ellen does well. When Ellen does well, then Shavana does well. So it's about creating that network of people who will support you. It can be really tough sometimes. I'm pleased to say that I'm seeing more and more women in sports, in baseball. And I'd like to see more African-American women. I'd like to see more African-American men, frankly. But it can be lonely. I can remember several years ago when, and I'm there for every home game, and I'm sitting in the box with all the vice presidents, and I'm the only woman, and I'm the only African-American. And it got kind of lonely. They would talk about football and all this other kind of stuff and all these things. And I was like, But, I managed to not let that bother me. What I did instead was I forged and fostered great relationships with those men. And they helped me learn about them, and they learned about me. And it just turned out to be a great relationship. But it can be lonely. So back to what I was saying, is that in terms of the loneliness, you have to create a network of people that you can count on. I have a network of women, both professionally and personally, that I pick up the phone and I call. I pick up the ones professionally and I'm like, hey, help me figure this out. Or, hey, do you have a resource for this? The other ones I might say, hey, need a shoulder, need to cry, need a pep talk. You've got to surround yourself with people who will support you. And you've got to give yourself grace and know that it's tough, it's hard, and you're going to have to give yourself a break sometimes. But again, also in terms of reinventing, I think it's important for women to stay on top of the game. When I first started working, I knew nothing about baseball. As a matter of fact, I don't think I knew much about sports. I got my job because of my marketing expertise. And I also think, frankly, because the Tigers were trying to hire an African-American woman. I think they wanted to have some diversity. So when I started at the Tigers, I didn't know anything about sports. So I committed myself to reading everything I could. I never wanted to be that person in the room where everyone's talking about the basketball game or the football game or the golf match that happened the night before, and I couldn't contribute to the conversation. So I read and read. I learned the rules. I learned how to take score at baseball games because I wanted to understand the game. I wanted to be able to have, good, honest conversations about the game the night before. I learned, and I still to this day put the entire roster up on my wall, so I know everybody's name. I mark them off if they're getting sent down to the minors. I know the pitching rotation. I understand the pitchers because you got to know your game. And so I think staying on top of those kinds of things has helped give me some staying power. And then just working hard. I'm not sure I answered your question. Did I answer your question?
You totally answered it. And I think your answer was very helpful. As you were talking about being a woman and the African American on the leadership team, I thought about the obstacles that you face as a trailblazer. Can you speak to being the only African American woman in a male dominated environment, the obstacles you have faced and how you tackled them?
Sure. Well, I just want to say two things. It was only until recently, it's only been the past couple of months, that I'm the only African American woman in leadership. There was another woman who was in leadership of the Tigers, and she was my rock. And she was a vice president before I was a vice president. And so, as we talked about, as Shavana does well, Ellen does well, as Ellen does well, Shavana does well, this woman went out of her way when I got promoted to make sure that I understood everything. She took me under her wing and said, if you ever have questions, if you need anything, I'm here for you. There are many times when I was in her office with the door shut, trying to navigate tears, everything, but she was there for me. So again, I want to emphasize that those kinds of relationships are really, really important in the office and outside of the office. The other thing is that I'm happy to announce that the new CMO for the Red Wings and Tigers and the District of Detroit is a woman. So my boss now is a woman. So that's even more inspiring, right? But for a long time, you're right. From a marketing standpoint, I kind of like, sort of more in the sales side versus on the community side, I was the only African American and the only woman. And, sometimes I think we stumble over ourselves as women. We forget a couple things. First of all, we get so caught up in I'm the only that we forget why we're there. We're there because we're good at what we do. Period. Full stop. We're also there, and I'm seeing this more and more, particularly after this past summer's events and the social unrest, is that our voices are important. What I think we sometimes try to do is we try to get a seat at the table, and then we want to try to mimic the people that we're sitting next to. No, you're at the table because your voice as an African American woman or as a woman is important. Because I'll give you a perfect example. There was a campaign that we were launching some time ago, and the campaign was about a food drive in Detroit. And I looked at the image, and I looked at the video for this campaign, and it wasn't a campaign, it was a community program, and it was talking about feeding children in Detroit. Well, every image was of a Black child. And I was like, nope. First of all, every Black child in Detroit isn't hungry and isn't poor. There's a lot of them, yes, but not everyone. There are other communities that also have food insecurity. The other thing, and so I didn't want to present this sort of image that we're helping these little poor children in Detroit. No. The other thing that's important is that sometimes the images that we project about African American children has an impact on them. So if we continue to show them as the victims, if we continue to show them as the people that don't have, then they will start to internalize and think that they're the only ones that don't have, and that they don't have, and they can never have. And so it was important in that particular piece that we showed some diversity so that the children wouldn't feel like they're the only people in the city of Detroit who are hungry or don't have food, but also so that we're projecting the right image about who we are as a community.
That is very important. Just the power of imaging. What you see, you believe, and that can be good and bad.
Yeah, so it's a perfect example of, were I not an African American woman, I may not have visualized or thought about it that way. And so it was an opportunity for me in my unique person as Ellen and all the wonderful experiences I've had in life, for me to be able to say, hey, I'm raising my hand because I think this is going to be better for the company. And the more that we have diverse voices speaking up, the better we all will be, right? And so again, I emphasize to women, we get at the table and we're like, should I act like Bob or Joe or Fred or Steve? No, you should act like Shavana. You should act like Ellen. And you should talk about and bring your collective experiences to the table and share them and use them to help build strategy, particularly as it relates to marketing. Like, we want to hear. African Americans are huge consumers, right? So if we are huge consumers and brands are speaking to us, then as marketers, we need to help frame the narrative of how African Americans are being spoken to, right?
Yes. I'm like, that's a tweet right there, everyone who is watching tonight. Be yourself.
Be
You are at
yourself.
the table for a reason.
Yep.
Earlier, you were talking about building campaigns and trying things. Sometimes things work out, sometimes they do not. Can you talk about how you handle failure and regroup?
You know, part of success is failure. But what happens when you fail is, again, my word, give yourself grace, but also think about what caused that failure, what caused that breakdown, right? And once you can root and think about, you know, what it was that went wrong, then you can improve next time. And so, but it's what's most important is when you fail is that you can't beat yourself up because you're going to fail. There's going to be great events. There's going to be great games. And then there's going to be ones that are pretty tough and very hard. And I can recall, Shavana, a boss that I had previously who, when the Tigers were, and we were horrific at this time. This is many years ago. We were horrific. And so basically at this time we were losing more than we were winning. And, you know, baseball has 10 game, 12 game, 14 game homestands. And so when we would go on these losing streaks, he would come in the office with his head down, grumpy, and slam the door and wouldn't talk to anybody and would be mad because the team lost. And I'm like, that's not helping anybody, right? That's not helping. When we're on a 10 game or 5 game losing streak, which we will not be this season, thank you, our new manager, AJ Hinch, I still have to go out as a marketer, as a special events person, and greet our fans. I can't internalize that. My responsibility is to provide good family fun for our fans. And so if I'm getting caught up because we've lost 3 games, then I'm doing a disservice to the people I am to serve. And so, you know, failure, challenges are going to happen, but you just have to continue to believe in yourself, grace, and think about how you can improve things, and manage it. And failure is not forever. Failure is temporary. Failure is about a mindset, right? And so if you make a mistake, you get up the next day, brush yourself off, figure out what the challenges were, figure out how you can do better next time, put your red lipstick on and go.
I love that you added red lipstick.
My sister, I have a thing about red lipstick, and my sister sent me a note. It's actually right here, and it says, "Speak softly and carry a big lipstick."
That's another tweet, ladies. Oh, well, Ellen, I have a confession.
Okay.
When I was at the Detroit Lions, I was so envious. You all have this tiger out in front of Comerica Park that is just amazing and creates moments for fans, but also just families and people. Mm-hmm. And I was so envious of that. I wanted to get a lion to just roar back out at that tiger. I mean, literally in a meeting one time I said, this is like insane. The lion is the king of the jungle. And
not Detroit.
Without
not Detroit. The tiger is the king of the jungle in Detroit. No offense to Lions.
So I was so envious of that tiger. I still have a personal goal, to get a picture with the tiger during all 4 seasons. I only have spring, but it's still a goal of mine to get one during each of the 4 seasons. So I just had to share with you that I was really envious of the tiger, especially now that phones and cameras are ubiquitous. It's like during the non-playing season, and even if you don't know baseball, that is something. It's a Detroit icon, and
it is.
Capture it and take a picture with it.
I think you may have just given me a social media idea with this whole tiger and the seasons. I love that. But yeah, the big tiger in the front of Comerica Park, it has become part of like you said, it's an icon in the city of Detroit. And throughout year round, families come, we have bridal parties come, we've had people get engaged in front of there. I mean, it is just like a big deal. And, you know, that really speaks to who we are as the Detroit Tigers. As I mentioned, you know, 120-year-old brand, but also, you know, firmly rooted, as I mentioned earlier, in the community, but committed to providing, you know, good family fun. That's my goal. I want families and I want young people and everyone to think of going to a Tiger. There's something for everyone at a Tigers game, right? So maybe you're not a huge Tiger, maybe you're not a huge baseball fan, but you still want to come and enjoy the outdoors. You want to get your photo by the big Tiger. You want to grab a hot dog. You want to just enjoy the ambiance of the game. There's nothing more restful and relaxing than sitting outside at a baseball game, the green grass, so well manicured, and just the pace of the game, which might need to get a little bit faster, but we can talk about that later. But the pace of the game, just the sense of summer, particularly in a city like Detroit where, it gets super cold in the winter. But we want to be that quintessential outdoor summer fun for Detroiters of all ages.
Yeah. And you all certainly accomplished that. We could continue to talk forever between family life, just branding and marketing. I could do this weekly with you, Ellen. I'm so grateful for this time. Before I go to questions for the audience, just one more question around branding. And it is how you develop your marketing partnerships. The Tiger again, when I was in Detroit, not only was I envious, as you now know, about Big Tiger, that was like amplified once winter came and I saw him in a Carhartt jacket. Oh my goodness.
Right. So in terms of marketing partnerships, it's really, it rests between the sponsorship and partnerships group and marketing. So the sponsorship and partnership group, they'll go out and they'll sell the deal, right? And the elements of the deal. But they'll also come to the marketing team and the promotions team and they'll say, what's the best way that we can market the kids club? Or what's a great partner that you might want that we might be able to put with the kids club? And then they might sell a deal and they'll come back and it's up to the marketing promotions department to execute, right? So I like to think of the corporate partnerships department as sort of our client. So they're going out, they're selling the deal. They have a responsibility to their client, but then marketing promotions is the responsibility of the partnerships department to make sure that we are executing on the deal and doing everything we can to over deliver and overserve our the sponsor partner, right? So I think of things like when we come up with different special events, we're thinking of special events and we're thinking of what the special event is going to mean for the Tiger fan. But then we're thinking about, okay, how can we take this special event and how can we add a sponsor onto it? What sponsor makes sense? Does it feel right? So one of the things I think people get wrong when it comes to these partnerships is they're not really thinking through whether or not the partnership feels right from an organic standpoint and it's seamless that this particular partner is involved, right? So for example, Aquafina, good example. So Aquafina is part of Pepsi, right? So we've got the kids club. So we're not going to put Pepsi with the kids club because you don't really want to, promote children's drinking pop. So no, we put Aquafina with the kids club. So then we're thinking about nutrition and good health. We also have added Kroger to our kids club. So you think about water and good health for kids in the kids club, then you add in Kroger, and now we're going to be doing these healthy meal plans and things like that and talking about nutrition with the kids. So the Kroger, Aquafina, those relationships all make sense, and it makes sense of the kinds of messaging when we're thinking about growing the game of baseball and keeping young people healthy. To put all those things together with our kids club makes sense from a partnership standpoint. So it's really about working as, first of all, understanding who the partner is, understanding the sponsor. What are their goals? What are their objectives? How can we help them with our brand, help them achieve their goals? Who is their target market? Who's their demographic? How do they want to grow their business? How can we help them grow their business? What are the assets we have on the Tiger side that best fit with this brand and the way they interact with consumers and interact with their audiences? So it's really like this big, huge thing. But that's one of my favorite things is finding the perfect partner for either the perfect special event, the perfect program, or something. When it works, it works. And that is this past weekend when we did our Detroit Roots neighborhood tour and we had, we were giving away Tiger caps. So we reached out to New Era. So we had New Era as a sponsor. We wanted to make sure people had food and felt like this was a fun picnic. But we couldn't really serve people the way you normally would serve people at a picnic. So we got Little Caesars pizzas. So we were able to give everybody big boxes of Little Caesars pizza. It's those kinds of things that just make sense. They can enhance an event and also drive value for the corporate partner.
That's awesome. So I am going to go to our questions now. And the first one was an email question. And it is, considering that you have to market to fans of diverse backgrounds and also champion your programs internally, how do you balance the interests of different stakeholders?
Great question. And I hope I'm going to answer this question correctly. One of my main responsibilities at the Detroit Tigers is to sell tickets. Everybody in the organization, that's their goal. They've got it. We wouldn't be in business if we weren't selling tickets. And so I have to look at my priorities from a marketing perspective like this. How can I sell the most tickets, right? How can I sell the most season ticket packages? Who is that demographic that has the highest propensity or interest to purchase a season ticket? And that's going to be right now, currently, as we stand, it's going to be probably a white male between the ages of about 40 and 60. So the bulk of my advertising budget at this point has to go to that particular demographic because that makes sense. That's how I drive revenue. But at the same time, I have to then talk about how do we grow diverse audiences. So over here, I'm focusing on, I got to drive my ticket sales number. But I know, for example, in a city like Detroit, that is 80% African-American. If we're going to grow attendance, I got to start doing some serious marketing to the African-American community because it only makes sense. They live in the city where the ballpark is. So it's, when you're having those internal conversations, you have to be true to what your goal is, right? So I would look like an idiot if I said, okay, let's take 90% of our budget and let's market towards African-American women. Well, as much as I'd love to do that, that's probably not going to make sense right now when I need to drive season ticket sales, right? So it's about being honest, but also having a strategy. I didn't say I wasn't going to market to the African-American audience. I said I was going to focus first on the demographic that has the highest propensity to purchase a season ticket package or to buy a Tigers ticket. And then I'm going to think about growing the game and growing interest and figuring out what's the best way to get Detroiters and more engaged in Tigers baseball. And part of that is growing the game, which we talked about, part of our community impact initiative. And that is making sure that we're getting young people interested in the games to then get moms and dads to want to bring their kids to the game because they've got an interest. They're playing it in their backyards. They're playing it at school. So it's sort of like parallel pathing, but making sure that you have realistic goals and objectives and the right strategy to grow the audiences to ultimately reach my long-term goal, which is to get Detroiters just as interested in baseball and African-Americans just as interested in baseball as this core set of fans over here that have been interested in baseball for a very long time.
Yeah, that's great. The next question is, what is the most challenging thing about your job?
I think it's the hours, right? I think it's not necessarily just the hours. It's 10-game homestands. It's really like grueling days and rain delays and having to be out on the concourse when it starts pouring and you have a really bad hair day. Those are some of the challenges that really bother me. But again, I think it's that, when you get into the end of August and you've been at this since April and you've played so many home games, it can be a little bit challenging. And the other thing that is challenging is that, is if I'm tired, I know my team that works 25 times harder than I do, they're exhausted. And so part of it is understanding how to keep people motivated after such a long season, after such long homestands. And I have to be the champion. I've got to be the first one in the office. I've got to be the one that's smiling and keeping everybody inspired. And if I'm tired, that can be a little bit of a challenge. But, I've got to rise to the occasion. So I would say the most difficult thing, challenging thing is just, it can be the long season and the long hours and rain delays.
Next question is, How did you enjoy your Spelman College experience?
Well, attending the best college in the entire United States, really was just a privilege. No, I would say that, first of all, I'm so incredibly proud of all HBCUs. I'm so incredibly proud of the attention that we are garnering as a result of not just our vice president, our Madam Vice President, but also because of Raphael Warnock, who went to Morehouse, and so many other, Stacey Abrams, so many other graduates of HBCUs are really helping to let the world know what we already knew, that there is something brilliant and fantastic and spectacular about putting African Americans in institutions where we're learning the truths and we're learning about our history in a different way. And we're supporting one another. There's nothing better than being in an environment where you're looking at each other and you're all excelling. And my Spelman College experience was probably one of the best experiences of my life. I went down to Spelman as one person and I came back as another. I came back with a sisterhood that spans across the country and across the world. And I have a sister and brotherhood with all members of the HBCU family. I'm so incredibly proud. I love Spelman, and I encourage anyone, if it's an amazing experience. My sister went to Howard Law School. My dad graduated from Meharry Medical School. So we are an HBCU family. And so I could go on and on and on about this, but I would just say that it was an amazing experience, particularly for me, having come out of, I went to majority schools, private schools, my entire, youth and everything, all the way from, kindergarten through high school. And so when I graduated and went to Spelman, it really taught me a lot about who I was and gave me, I believe, a very profound sense of self-esteem in knowing that there are many, 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 many amazing women who graduated from Spelman and are doing incredible and amazing things in this world.
That is awesome. We're going to take our last question from Facebook here. It is, what programs are available at the Tigers to coach, groom, and mentor minority students in high school or college?
That's an excellent question. So for the past couple of years, now we weren't able to do it last year, and I don't think we're going to be able to do it this year, but we have had a mentorship program with Cass Technical High School, where we bring in Cass Tech high school students, and they actually come to work every day, and they are, and not only are they working actually in various disciplines, but that's also paired with resume writing classes and communications classes and what's the best way to communicate in the business environment and things like that. So really providing these young people with the tools and resources that they will need to understand how to navigate the business world. It's also about giving them some exposure, making sure that they're in the office, they're in the meetings with us, they're learning and they're hearing, because most people, women in particular, but most people learn by modeling. So if you let young people into the business environment and they're able to see, then they will begin to model that kind of behavior. And hopefully we are starting at a young age. I think these children, young people, I think they're like in 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. So we're starting at a point where it's really, really important that we're instilling in them those skill sets that they need to be able to navigate the business world. We're also in the process of trying to figure out what's the best way we can enhance our college internship programs. We have a great internship program. It's now called an assistant program. And again, it's kind of weird with COVID right now. It's difficult, but we're looking to grow that program to ensure that we have a specific number. I shouldn't say specific number, but that we are exposing or reaching out to and engaging not just African Americans, but Latinx. In Detroit, there is a huge Arab and Chaldean population. So it's about making sure that our internship program reflects the demographics of our community. And I'll be honest, we're fine tuning that, but that's a goal that we're working towards. But I'm very, very, very proud of this Cass Tech program. It is outstanding. And I have seen some young people go on to do great things who've come out of that program.
That is a great program. I can't wait to see the young men and young ladies who come out of that program. I can only imagine they are going to be trailblazers. Absolutely. And do dynamic work in the sports industry. Well, thank you, Ellen, so much for joining us this evening. Again, happy Detroit Tigers opening day eve. I will be following this season. Before I let you go, though, I just have 3 statements for you to complete.
Can I say one thing to you first?
Certainly.
I just want to tell you how incredibly proud I am of you. You inspire me, and SHEMAKERS and everything that you're doing. You have always been amazing. You've been a friend, but I'm just so proud of you. And I think that what you're doing with this podcast is outstanding. And I am sitting here just raving about how wonderful, beautiful, talented you are. And I just want to say thank you for extending an invitation to me to spend some time with you. And I just thank you. You're amazing.
Oh, you are amazing. And thank you so much for those kind words. I can't wait to do this again at Comerica Park in front of the tiger that I always envied. Okay, so for the first statement to close us out, this book changed my life.
Wow. I'll tell you what I just read, and that is Educated by Tara Westover. That's a very interesting, very, very interesting and very profound book. And it speaks a lot about education and about religion and things like that. So that I literally just finished it this morning. So that I don't know that it changed my life, but it certainly offered me a different perspective about the world. And so I would encourage people to really read that book.
Okay, I'm going to check it out. Maybe SHEMAKERS will start a book club and we'll lead with that one. The next statement is, tomorrow it is Detroit Tigers opening day. I am going to blast this in my car on the way to the park.
I don't think this is the actual name of the song, and people always tease me, but living my life like it's Golden. Golden. That is my jam. Yep. Or I have to say, if it's not that, it's any Motown song.
A true lady from Detroit.
Absolutely.
And the final question is, or statement that you have to complete is, the documentary about Ellen Hill Zeringue will be titled.
Wow. These are difficult. It will be titled, I don't know. Trying to Live with Grace.
I like that. And so fitting. Thank you, Ellen, for joining us this evening. I know you need to get your beauty rest and get prepared for opening day and put on your red lipstick again tomorrow. So you have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to talking to you soon. And next time, this will definitely be in person. But I'm so very grateful for technology that still allows us to connect and be able to share like this. You have definitely been inspiring this evening. I hope you could see the love that you were shown from a lot of Michiganders watching this evening, and wishing you well on the 2021 season.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night. I will talk to you soon.
Okay, take care.
And thank you all again for joining me for the 10th episode of SHEMAKERS Live. Can you all believe it? I cannot believe that we just finished episode 10. It has been a wonderful time over the last couple of months, talking with all of my SHEMAKER coaches and reading the comments from you all. I hope that you all are enjoying this as much as I am, and putting some good notes in your playbooks, because this is all about unleashing your power to be the best that you can be and win in business and life. So what do we have coming up? Well, next week, I am excited to welcome a good friend of mine, Miss Paula Buckhaller. She is the CEO of PBJ Consulting and Events, and we're going to be talking about sports, large events, owning your professional development, negotiating, and women's leadership. Prior to launching her own business, Paula got experience working in the NFL as well as the NCAA. So she has worked on men's Final Four and all of the championships that the NCAA hosts each year for student athletes. She is also really passionate about connecting women and helping them develop as leaders. She started an initiative last year during the pandemic called Sisters in Sports, which I am happy to be a part of. I actually saw some comments from her this evening, so you can find her in the comments on YouTube and wish her well and tell her that you're looking forward to next week's show. Remember, Wednesday night for SHEMAKERS Live is not the only time that you can connect with Hills and Helmets. We are wherever you are. So connect with us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you all for joining me this evening. I think, like I said, we really hit a home run closing out Women's History Month. What a fabulous month. Being able to talk to Diana, who leads the Women's Global Leadership Initiative, and being able to speak to Naomi, who was at the Catalyst, and that organization helps other companies develop workplaces that are conducive to women. Last week, wasn't Tasha fabulous in encouraging us to use our voices and sharing the work that she's doing at the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee? And to close it out with Ellen and all of the great work that she is doing at the Detroit Tigers. I really appreciated her candor in answering about the real focus for marketing and how she has to balance being responsible and ensuring that the organization reaches its financial goals, but having a campaign that is diverse and reaches all constituents in Detroit. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Remember, you are a SHEMAKER, and I am here to help you unleash your power, make big plays, and get in the end zone and win. Until next Wednesday, have a great week. Good night.